Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Can I Have a Word with You? Today we're actually going to do what I call Can I have a word with Bruce? And so how you doing, Bruce? I probably should say hi and let you tell everyone hello.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Heather. This is a great idea. We've done a lot of these podcasts now, and you had a great idea, and I'll let you kind of expand on what that is and kind of what we're going to do the next couple of episodes.
Okay. Well, so this kind of came to me when I was thinking through how much I enjoy doing these podcasts and all the topics we have had a chance to unpack together. And then I kind of had to me, it was hilarious because it just represents, I think, how you and I both think that we have some things that we are excited about sharing and unpacking together. And so we just did our first podcast. I think it was maybe on change or it's probably on control, which would also make sense. Um, and then I thought, we kind of introduced ourselves, but then we just jumped right into the word. And I think it's funny just because we assumed that anybody knows why in the heck we have anything to say or what kind of credentials we might have to even talk about this stuff. So I thought it might be helpful, at least in my brain. I think it would be helpful for people to hear our individual stories and how we got to the point where we even know each other.
Oh,
Because, you know, if for those of you who don't know this, Bruce and I have never actually met face to face. Well, face to face on Zoom, but not, in person, in the flesh. And so I think, I'm going to let you share your story today and we'll kind of, let people know a little more about you and how you got to do all the things that you do and how we connected. And then we'll do my story another time.
that's that sounds fun. So I guess I go first, as
You
they
get
say.
to go first. Yes.
So, uh, yeah, this is hopefully this will be fun. I really appreciate that we taking a step back and we're just kind of tapping the brakes a little bit on all
Mm-hmm.
these words that we share, and so I guess I'll go all the way back to the beginning because I think to it's important for me to understand this
Mm-hmm.
and so to talk about it frequently because it molded everything. So my very first beginnings,
Mm-hmm.
when my mother went into labor with me, um, I had an older brother. When she went into labor with me, I was the second. Of course, she suffered a major heart trauma. The technical term was a dissecting aortic aneurysm during labor. She didn't know it. She just thought that pains and shortness of breath and water broke, and then in the way to the hospital, her leg was numb. She was riding the back seat. A neighbor had decided to take us, and my dad was in the back seat. She couldn't feel her leg. My dad said, "Well, you just probably sitting on it wrong, or Well, she gets to the hospital, and they wheel her in. Her leg falls off of the leg stirrup, one of them, her left leg, and she doesn't feel anything. And a nurse sees that, and the nurse says there's something wrong. So they take her blood pressure and her pulse is flying, but her blood pressure is dropping. So what that meant was her heart was pumping like crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the blood was not getting through. There was a leak. So they C-sectioned me immediately, and there were two surgeons. We were at Yale New Haven Medical Center in Connecticut. There were two surgeons who were teaching at Yale who were visiting from Tulane University in New Orleans who had just perfected aortic valve replacement. So they called them over. My mom dove into a 60-day battle to survive, which no one had survived longer than 72 hours on record back into the 1700s when they were started keeping records of this type of traumatic event. So she fought tooth and nail. We had grandmothers come in town just to kind of take care of everything. Everybody hustled up. There were 17 pints of blood she needed, and 15 of them came from members of her church.
Wow.
She made a full recovery. Lived
That's
till I
awesome.
was 22 years old. So she raised me with my father.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I didn't know that there was ever anything wrong or a problem, but I also didn't know anything except being raised in a household of gratitude. Grateful for the surgeons, grateful for the faith miracle, grateful for the community that came to rally, grateful for family that came in to help. And that's the way I was raised. I was raised in positivity, in gratitude. And my father had this crazy love of words. He wrote poems and plays and
Yeah. What did he have a job that required that, or what was?
no, that was his hobby. He was a business person. And we moved to Florida, and he went into public service in the school system. So
Hmm.
he didn't, but he had that creative thing. And being a teenager and having your father come and say, "Hey, I got another name of a person." Oh, what's that, Dad? The person that always has a plan B. His name's just in case. I'm going, Dad, stop, right? But he had all these names that he would use in his plays that were the characters' jobs. It just, this weird thing, and it flowed through me, and it was kind of awkward, right? I kind of had the same knack. So I say all of that because Dad had a real positive, powerful words, and Mom was just so grateful, and that was fine until 25 years working with a company. I was laid off with 500 other people one day. And it was this crush. Like everything in life was, well, if you're grateful and you're positive and you keep working, you're kind of on this track of you expect, you just take things as good things, right?
Yeah, everything will go up and to the right if you do your part. Everything
Yes.
will go smooth, and
And that was the first real, what I call bam moment in my life, where everything got sideways real fast. Like everything changed from 7 o'clock in the morning into at 8:30 in the morning, everything was done. Change, different, over. Like you leave, you're gone. Like, okay, now what? So that next morning, which led to my speaking, which led to my book writing, etc. I'll wrap this up pretty quickly.
you don't have to wrap it up quickly because this whole thing gets to be about you.
Okay.
So you just keep going.
Well, thank you. So the next morning, I woke up after this layoff, and one word was pounding in my head that I needed to be strong. Bruce, you've got two daughters. You got you all the stuff you think about that you were providing and lifting up for your family was gone. So what do? And Mom's gratitude, everything's going to be okay. Dad's love of words. I wrote the word strong vertically, and I just looked at the word and I said, well, you know what this means? And I just used the letters. Being strong means to stand tall, remain optimistic. Now go for it. So those 6 letters started something. I tried to be strong that day. In that process of thinking and writing and understanding, starting to understand that what I said to myself, the words I used, how I used them to myself and to others, impacted a lot of things. And first, it was just mood, or it was, my perspective on the moment. But then I started reading more and realizing that, our words are so important in defining our mindset, our beliefs, our thoughts, our actions, and then ultimately how things do turn out, right? So the best thing that could have happened to me was that layoff, although it took me a long time to step in and realize that I was given an assignment, and the assignment was for 420 consecutive mornings to write down that word that came to me in the morning at the same time, usually around 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning when I would wake up. They'd be, okay, what's the word today, God? And he'd put them on my heart. Like we all have gifts. God installed features to share, GIFTS. And it continues to come through me. And so ultimately I started sharing those with friends. And a couple of key moments in that transformation was, one, I got an email or a text back from a friend who's a surgeon, and he was scrubbing for his first surgery of the day. And I think I sent him the word calm, catch a little moment. And he texted me back that night. He said, I needed that text. I was scrubbing for a heart surgery for a premature born baby with a heart defect. And he said, there could have been so many things go different. And I didn't know until I got into the surgery that you texted me the word calm, and that helped me get through it. And when that happened, that's when I realized that this is bigger than me, and I got to pay attention to this assignment. I got to focus on it, and I've just got to keep going. And that opened everything. It changed everything. It allowed me to really step in, I would say, with great confidence, that being raised in a family of gratitude and a creative side finally merged and melded together for a purpose in life, which was use this as a gift. Don't see it as just something quirky and nerdy, because it really started impacting people beyond
Mhm.
what I could ever imagine.
Mhm. So you kind of see how God took all this, when you say it was like the culmination of time, or, that you were, um, these circumstances happened for such a time as this. Like everything up into your life kind of led up to you being able to handle that huge event and then take it and use it to help others get through what you went through. You had all the tools in your toolbox. You just didn't have anything specific to build with it yet until that kind of clicked for you.
Yeah, and I struggle with that confidence thing. I struggle with the anxiety thing. I struggle with the things I write about. And you
Mhm.
talk about that a lot as well. And I think that keeps me fresh and on my toes, because I haven't figured this out. I am on a journey. And man, every morning, there's just, okay, what are we going to think about today? And it just is my way of starting the day, is to try to write something each day that I can share out. And I think we've talked about this on the podcast, and try to be the pebble that starts the ripple.
Mhm.
Because you never know where somebody needs something, and I needed it, and God gave it to me at that time. I needed it the most, and so with that assignment of writing these down, became
Mhm.
okay. Now turn it into a book. Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter. Like, really, like the last person that thought I would write a book were my English teachers. I mean, I was not that guy. And
Me too.
so we said, okay, let's just follow the step and do the work. And I don't know what the outcome's going to be. And then he said, okay, now start giving your books away. And I said, well, wait a minute, and so what we do is, every time I'm booked to speak, or anytime I sell books to, or companies or organizations buy books, I'm able to then donate my time for another talk, or donate books. And I'm in
Mhm.
the healthcare business. And so the first place I go is to the family services libraries of the hospitals I visit, and see if I can meet the director and offer to put a book in their library. And that's just been the mission. And then he said, okay, audition for a TED talk. And I'm like, okay, no, wait a minute. Those guys are polished. They know what they're doing. They've got their statistics. I'm just a guy who started writing some words down. But
Mhm.
he helped me through that, and that's led to so many more things, and it's led to you and I meeting. It's led to
Mhm.
this podcast. It's led to our desire to share kind of what we've learned, or what we are learning, or what we failed at, very honestly, and hopefully very vulnerably and authentically, to our audience.
Yeah. And I love that. I think that's how a lot of things in life get done is, we want our lives to be easy, but the reality is most amazing changes in the world happen because people go through something horrific,
Mhm.
and how they got through it is what spurs them to use the grace they were given, or the hope they were given, or the strength they were given, to use those things to encourage other people who are going through
Yes.
either things currently, or at one point, like you were saying earlier, like it's coming. Life happens.
Yeah.
Life just happens. And at some point, we all have some pain that we're going to have to handle. And you and I both are on the same page with saying, how can we help people handle that? We've been through a lot, and that doesn't mean we'll never go through anything else again, but we've found some tools and some things that help us get through it. And number one being reasoning it out on paper. Somehow you're writing it out and thinking through it and letting that encourage you. And I write a blog, and it helps me
Yeah.
think through it. And then both of us could really stop there. But because we love God and love people, part of that loving people is to help people, is point them back to our the source of our strength, and helping them have some hope in their situations too. So tell us about, like, I know you do speaking, and you have your hand in a lot of things, I know. So this is your time to tell us all about all those things.
Yeah, I do this podcast called "Can I Have a Word with You" with my dear friend Heather
I
Carter.
know. I heard it's awesome.
Yeah. And again, that was taking a step. That was saying, I don't know how, but let's go.
Yeah.
And a step on faith. So yeah, I do a lot of speaking. I'm looking to continue to do more in all kinds of venues.
Hmm.
The power of our words, the power of our mindset, and I'm even developing this more into the power of our heart set. Has really just given there's so much search for hope right now, and for encouragement, and for just understanding, and I think there's a craving for learning,
Hmm.
which I have. And so the speaking, guesting and hosting podcasts, working on, I don't have enough to say yet, but a second book of some 3 or 4 different ideas popping around my head. I do a lot of speaking preparation work, or coaching, because of my TEDx. I learned a lot during that process, and so we do some TEDx coaching to help folks kind of prepare and think about that platform.
Hmm.
And any opportunity that I can speak and kind of share the message, whether it's in a faith-based setting, or whether it's in a corporate setting, or whether it's with teams or individuals or companies that have merged that are trying to work on their cultural definitions and things of that nature. Probably the the place I really enjoy is where I'm able to help folks who might not have access to what I
Hmm.
had as a child, which is a loving home, being raised in gratitude, being thankful for every day. I see more and more that that is not a common place that a
Hmm.
lot of folks have come from. And it's really humbled me to be able to step into a situation where it's a maybe it's a group where an organization of exploited women, or it's homeless shelters, where we can just go in and a little nugget about some concepts around thinking and speaking and the words we use,
Hmm.
just fills me up. So, the corporate speaking really helps because it allows me to do the other, where there aren't budgets and there aren't, the same kinds of capabilities or resources,
Yeah.
to
I know
pull.
for you and I both, we've talked about, books are not ways, at least, unless you're Bob Goff or Brene Brown or something, at least for me, I'm not making a load of money on my books because I am so and passionate about, and you're the same way, about getting the word out about how to think differently and how to have hope in people's struggles, that if someone even mentions they have any problem, I'm like, oh my gosh, here, have a book. Here, have a book. And just give my books away to everybody. People say, are you selling a lot? I'm like, I don't know. I don't I really don't try to track it because I don't feel like that was why I did this in the first place. It was to get the message of hope out, that you're not alone in your struggles. You're not the only one. And the best way I can think to do that is to be able to give them a book and let them read how
Yeah.
I struggled and things that God gave me to get through them. 7 blogs later, I'm probably having the same struggle and maybe have a little different solution, but that's just life. But you've used your pain that someone could have used to give up or be resentful at God and the world for and become a victim, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to be strong.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
going to start with strong.
I didn't know that that might be really a choice, um, at the time, right? I got this word, I wrote it down. And now what I realize is that situations we can't always control, but we can definitely put ourselves in a mindset and a heart set of, all right, what step will I take? What direction will I go? Will I go, oh, woe is me? Or will I flip that and say, wow is me? Right?
Mhm.
If I'm bound, am I constrained, or am I bound and determined, or bound for greatness?
Mhm.
There's so many examples of the conversations that go on in our head, and they go on in mine, backwards and forwards about an emotion around something. And
Mhm.
our words are the one way that we speak to ourselves, the one way that that script keeps going. And so it's just, I would encourage anyone that's listening to just catch a little moment, get calm, and think about, the words that we use in conversations with ourselves and conversations with others. really set the compass for the direction we're going to take.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love that we got connected because just as soon as the first time we talked, I remember very clearly, I just got off the phone. I just said to my husband, I'm like, no offense, but I just met like the best guy. And I said, it's like the male version of me. Like we just think so much alike and have the same passion to help people and to use our writing to encourage and inspire others. And it's not all just, oh, you can do it kind of talk. I mean, we definitely share where we are struggling and the strain. And I've noticed in my writing, and as you've talked, like you said, the kind of groups you are passionate about talking to are people who have lost a lot or not ever been given many of the things that we have, like families or a grateful parental example. And what I found is that pain and suffering and struggle levels the playing field. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, if you're married or not married, or or what social status you are, we all relate on the plane of worrying about our resentments and our fears and our anxiety and all that stuff. We all feel that.
Yeah, we have more in common than we might believe. And that's not like we want to get together and celebrate all of our problems. That's not the point. But the point is that everyone has certain things through their life, and they may be parallel. They may not be the same, but they may have created the same emotion. They may have created the same reaction. They may have created the need to make a change in their life. And it could be something as tragic as a car accident, or something as seemingly not that big a deal as, oh, you just lost your job. But what I've found is I've had to step into the fact that, that was pretty important to me. That was pretty impactful. That was pretty emotionally draining and stressful and anxious. Not more or less of a description of the situation, but certainly more inside of my head and inside of my heart about, wow, I have to do something. I have to think differently. I have to approach this. No one's going to come. The boats aren't coming to get me. I've got to I have to take some steps. And I think we all have been in that situation. So finding that relatable aspect is important, because from there, like you said, we've got a framework and a foundation that we can now help each other. We can now have a conversation that doesn't have comparison. It doesn't have judgment. It doesn't have, well, my problem was bigger than, no, it's like, okay, we're listening to understand versus listening to respond, or even listening to agree. We have the opportunity to step in and say, I don't know how you feel. I don't want to say I've been there. But what I'd like to say is, what can we do together where I might be able to serve you, where I might be able to help you? And then things come together and you're able to do that. And that's where I feel the most fulfilled in life. I had it as a kid. I had people lifting me up, encouraging me, and that can't fall idly on me. Can't, because too many times, whether it's that job or another job, or Bridget and I lost a baby in between our oldest and our youngest, and my mom's surgery, or just things that we have encountered in life. I believe if we look at them the right way, are there so that we can help others. I really do.
Yep. Well, we probably should cut this off, because we could, as we know, we can go all day, but 24 minutes is a lot of us. That's what I hear from my family. Like, that's a lot. But no, I love that you were able to just expand on kind of the why behind even wanting to do a podcast like this. And next time we'll talk a little bit more about my side of things, and maybe a little bit more about how, at least how I remember that we connected. And because I think it's all the same kind of thing. And like, for such a time as this, I mean, everything, just the timing of talking to our dear friend Bill Schomburg and him connecting me to you and all of that, and the timing was just, I think, God ordained. So I'm super grateful today for that.
As am I. Shout out to Bill Schomburg. And we'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit more on the next.
Yeah. Well, Bill, we're coming for you. Just so you know, you better be listening next time.
Absolutely.
All right, Bruce. Well, thanks for sharing your story, and we'll talk to you all later on Can I Have a Word with You?
Thanks, Heather.
Bye.
We'll see you.